What's up, guys? So today we're doing a video on what's the cost of vending at cons. We've done about 3 years worth of cons so far. We've had a lot of fun. We're going to continue to do cons as well. We already have a list for next year as well for shows that we're doing. So stay tuned for that on Instagram. Make sure to follow us on Instagram as well, guys, and Facebook too. There's a lot to get into today. It's going to be a little bit of a different video. There's no vending in this one whatsoever. We're just going to talk about the vending part itself, the costs that we kind of go through, and stuff that you can expect as a new vendor yourself or as previous vendors if you haven't already done these kind of numbers before as well. So hopefully this helps someone out there. Thank you guys so much for watching. Let's get into it. So of course, the first thing is, what's the permanent cost that we kind of go into? So we're going to do 4 examples. We're going to have different examples to show you guys based on shows that we've already done this year alone. So we're going to go into different categories of things that we do and basically the vending cost, of what we kind of have to deal with. So we have permanent costs, of course, cost of the table, the cost of gas, hotel, the cost of renting a U-Haul, which is variable based on like if we take a trailer or if we take a van itself, the cost of dogs and babysitters, employees, and then food costs as well. If there's anything I miss, I'll be sure to point it out as well. We also have non-permanent costs as well, the car maintenance, oil, tires, general upkeep, things like that. And again, all this stuff we will go into detail as well. The last one we have, real examples to basically show you guys. So we're gonna showcase 4 different shows that we did this year so far, basically traveling shows, and just kind of give you guys a perspective on what we make and what numbers we kind of have to hit in order for a show to kind of be worth it or worth our time to go back and do. All right, so now going into the cost of the tables, right? So the first thing is you want to go into a convention, you need to make sure you have enough space. I guess we'll call it what is that word now? I can't remember the name. Real estate space to basically display your products, show your products off, and things like that. Now, from our examples, we have to have a 20 by 10. We have so much inventory that a 20 by 10 fits perfectly for all of our needs. Again, if it doesn't fit y'all's needs, the numbers are going to be very different, right? So 20 by 10 is our cost. Usually, most video game shows that we do are $300 to $600 per 10 by 10. So at our max cost, you would say $1,200 for a 20 by 10 or $600 for a 20 by 10, typically. Some cons do charge for corner booths, right? So if you have a corner booth, which basically, I can't spell booth. A corner booth essentially looks like this, where there's nobody on any of these sides. So you basically can have customers coming in from the left, from the right, and then from, of course, the front as well, without any disturbance. Now, there are inline booths, which tend to be cheaper. Corner booths do cost more, usually $100 to $200 extra on top to have a corner booth, especially if you're having a 20 by 10 that's a corner booth, where all your angles are basically free. These are the more premier spots for us personally, because we like having more products out this way, versus an inline booth where it'll look like this, and you'll have somebody on this side as well, and you'll have somebody on this side as well. If you've ever been to conventions before, you'll know that there's no room to put anything here or here, and you may have to change up your layout as well. You can do a corner kind of with a 10 by 10. However, you would basically just shorten up your space to have stuff out, and then you'd have these tiny spaces, if you can see this, tiny spaces for people to come in and see the stuff on the side. We found that a lot of people don't like doing that, and they would rather have this kind of opportunity to browse around for their items, because it gives a lot more space. You're not as claustrophobic if you are with this kind of space here. So that kind of factors into the values as well of basically what we spend on tables. So it could cost more as well. Again, there will be details for all the shows that we've done this year as well, or for 4 shows that we've done this year. Also, costs vary higher or lower based on the event details. We've done comic book conventions that the booths are just sometimes double than what a normal video game convention booth will be. And that has to do with, like, they have to make up for guest costs. So if you didn't know, the way a guest works at a show is guests will come and sign a contract basically stating that if they don't make X amount of dollars, let's say $1,000 for example, right? If a guest comes by and says our contract is worth $1,000, if the signage that we do this weekend, 3 days, 2 days, whatever, does not equal $1,000, then the venue runners or the show runners themselves have to make up for this number. So if they only cleared $900, the venue or showrunners will have to then make up their own $100 in there to equal this number right there. So that kind of factors in because they put it on us as well. Again, it's nothing we can control, unfortunately, and there's different costs for that. The venue itself, if they're renting out a big venue or a space like a hotel that's very popular or an area that's very popular, the cost for their rental space goes up as well, makes our costs go up too. 3-day shows we've seen have gone up in price as well. 2-day shows, again, everything kind of varies in different prices. And then, of course, power cost, and that's a totally different thing. We don't use power, so that's never factored into our stuff for our values at all. So there's the cost tables. Okay, now we go into the cost of gas. Now, I want you guys to understand, this is going to involve a lot of math, but just follow along with me, and you can kind of factor this into your own equation as well, based on how far you're going to drive as well, okay? Now, I do want to make one thing clear. Based on 18 mile per gallon vehicle, that's what our vehicle gets, okay? 2022 Nissan Rogue Sport Edition, right? This is what our gets under tow weight, all right? What does that mean? Well, we're adding on approximately 1,000 pounds to pull for the car. Our car's normal MPG is about 27, but after a 1,000 pound increase in weight and wind draft, based on the tow, we only make 18 miles per gallon on average. It can go lower, it can be higher, depending on where we're at. Hilly country, it's very bad because we're going up a lot, so we're using a lot more gas. So we average about 16 to 17 usually. 18 is probably the way we're safest at number-wise, and it's going to be a cleaner number as well. The values put on total mileage to and from conventions. You have to understand, this is to and from, so this is both ways, right? Quick equation that we did, 18 miles to the gallon. Our tank is a 16-gallon tank, meaning we get 288 miles. Realistically, however, remember, we're not going to drive 288 miles completely. We're not driving exactly 288 and then we stop at a gas station. No, we have to be realistic. We're not going to use all 16 gallons, okay? You got to have some left over to actually make it to the gas station, right? You hit 288 miles dead even, you're out of gas and you're not going anywhere. You're going to push that car or you're going to have to walk to the nearest gas station. And sometimes there's none for like 5 to 10 miles and it's bad. We've never hit that problem yet, so thankfully, we're good. So realistically, 240 miles, realistically, right? That gives us a 48-mile difference. Just in case we don't have a gas station coming up, we can hit one within 48 miles and safely get to one. We've gotten really close to where we've gotten 3 miles left in our tank, and that was a very big mistake, but we did make it, so we're fine. 1,000-mile event to and from, so that's round trip 1,000 miles, 500 to, 500 back, right? For the sake of this equation, we're not going to count in town mileage either. But 1,000-mile event, let's just say 1,000 miles total, that's to and from, and that's us driving around the town as well. Realistically, it's like 900 miles to and from, so what, 450 each, and then 100 miles, let's say, in town, okay? Are we driving 100 miles in town? No, but for the sake of this equation, I just factored everything into this number, okay? 5 fill-ups at $3 a gallon. You're going to see that's $45 per fill-up tank. Remember, we're not driving the full 16 gallons. We're only driving 15 gallons of what we're really driving. Average is about $45 a tank at $3. The values do depend also on the region that you're in. We've been in California where we spent about $7 a gallon, and that number versus this one is very different. Now, again, that's going to be later on in the video, so just stay tuned for that. 5 fill-ups total is what we did, round trip, because remember, we have to make that 1,000 miles up. $225 total dollars spent for this guesstimation, I guess I would say, or for this kind of event, round trip and everything for gas. So $225 in gas alone for a weekend of driving. All right, now we're getting into the cost of the hotel, right? Values are average around $220 to $300 for a weekend, okay? That's factoring in 2-day cons, okay? As always, number depends on the area. I know that sounds like me just making a weird choice answer, but in reality, Portland, for example, is like a $400 for the weekend. I think is what we're spending, a $450 or something like that. For some reason, Portland's really expensive on their hotel rates, even though we got the cheapest hotel we could find. It was like $400 to $450 for the weekend. Okay, that's a weird one, but on average, usually we're about $220 to $300. It's like $70 to $90, I think, a day. 3-day cons add more to the hotel, okay? We're staying longer, therefore we have to be there longer. We do not like 3-day cons. We're going to make that very, very plain and simple. As a vendor ourselves, 3-day cons, in our opinion, just are not good, okay? typically they're fine. There's an outlying factor that unfortunately we just have no control over. And again, that's gonna be later on in the video. I'm getting ahead of myself, but we'll get into more of that later. But 3-day cons, in our opinion, are not the greatest cons to do. There's a certain flow of numbers, and again, getting ahead of myself. Far away cons cause us to stay overnight on a trip 1 to 2 times, and that's going and coming, so 2 to 4 times on average for staying at hotels. Okay, we're going to Portland. When you guys see this video, we'll actually be on our way to Portland at this point. This will be Wednesday, so we are currently in the last moments of our drive, I guess, last moments. 31-hour drive. We're not making that all in one go, okay? We're driving 15 to 17 hours Tuesday, and then Wednesday we're also going to do the same amount of drive just to finish up the rest of the drive and be in Washington, or I'm sorry, be in Oregon already. But that's going to eat into our cost as well as far as expenses go for the trip itself, okay? So if you see these two, basically, if I say it's going to cost $60 a night for us just to stay at a hotel till 5 in the morning and then continue driving, because we're gonna need some rest. The issue is going to come to, that's approximately 4 times 60, so $240 extra that we're spending as vendors to go vend at this con, a lot of states away, multiple miles away. Of course, again, getting ahead of myself, we're going to get into the numbers and what factors in and everything like that as well. Now we get into the cost of U-Haul. The values on these numbers, or the numbers that we'll show you later, are going to be based on towing only, okay? Because of that, we opted to do towing options now because it helps a lot more than renting a van or a truck. Our cost usually for the towing itself is $14.99 per day, so $15 we did. Our farthest con is going to be Portland, and we're actually going to have the trailer for a total of 10 days, so a little over a week, and that came out to $150 pre-tax. I think it's like $165. Let's just say $165 after tax. It's less than that, but listen, for the sake of the number, $165 of the tax. We just did $150 on that one. Understand, if you as a vendor are going to rent a van from U-Haul or a truck from U-Haul, that cost goes astronomically higher, because then you're spending $24.99, I think is what it is, or $19.99 for the van, and then mileage on top. So if you're driving, 1,000 miles, and it's like $2 a mile or something, you're spending, which I think that's what it actually is, 1,000 times, what did I say, $2 a mile? $2,000 on the truck itself, right? At $2 a mile equals $2,000. I don't remember if it was $2 a mile or if it was, oh no, you know what? It's 50 cents a mile. So actually, scratch this. I'm giving you guys the wrong numbers. I want to give you guys the most accurate numbers I can for these estimations. So it's actually not that. It's 50 cents a mile. Or I think they have like business options as well. 0.50 equals $500 just in mileage on top. Don't forget, you're renting that truck too for 10 days. That's another $200. So you're spending $700 actually if you're renting a truck or something driving this far. Now, 1,000 miles is short comparatively to what we actually do, or the shows that we do have. For instance, Connecticut was a very long drive. If we did a van, oh man, it would have been at least $1,000, I think, in just van rental, just in mileage would have been $1,000. So that would have hurt us a lot. But we opted for the towing reason now because it just saves a lot more money as well. All right, now we're going to go ahead and combine 2 different categories, or showcase 2 different categories right now. These are very simple, very easy. Our cost of employees, okay? We have a contracted laborer with somebody. $1,200 a month is what we pay them. And that's based on a contract that we have signed with them. Blunchy helps us out. $1,200 a month is what I pay her. She does a lot of the eBay stuff. She does a lot of the online stuff. Some of the social media stuff she does as well. But mostly cons, more than anything. She helps out moving stuff, pricing, and everything in between. So she's a big part of the company as well. Huge part. If anything, if I left, like she honestly takes control of everything. She's wonderful, and I'm very happy and I really do appreciate her as well. I do have a brother that does come in as well whenever he has time off to come help. Usually I pay him about $300 for just helping us out. He doesn't have to do any driving. He doesn't have to do any of the moving. Maybe eventually he'll get into the driving part. He just got his license, or he's trying to learn how to drive or be more confident with it. But driving with the trailer does take a little bit of practice. There's a little bit of a learning curve with it. But, you know, once we get him trained up and ready to go, I'm sure he can help us drive too, which would alleviate a lot more stress off of us as well. Because then we could actually probably do a drive straight to Portland if that ever became a thing. But yeah, I pay him $300 just to come to the con, come hang out, and take care of him as well. You may think this is a small number. Some people do think this is a small number. Some people think that this is a very small number. But there's another factor that's coming in as well. That actually, you know what, I might as well just go ahead and state now, actually, now thinking about it. This is a video that's just all raw, by the way. So, cost of food. I can't spell. Cost of food. I allocate per trip, usually about $400 for food. And that's for employees and everybody like that. I strongly believe that if your team is not well fed, your team will not support you. So I make sure that these guys are well fed. I'm talking Texas Roadhouse. I'm talking, you know, maybe we could save a lot more money with conventions if we didn't actually have this big of a budget for food. But I'm not going to take them for fast food or takeout like that, because a well-fed team is a well-working team. That did not come out fast enough. So $400. Sometimes we do go over budget. Actually, a lot of times we do go over budget, because if you count like $100 per day, without the traveling part, right? Because the traveling part while we're in the car, usually we do get fast food because we're sitting in the car, and it's just faster just to get, you know, pick up probably a $3 treat from a gas station, and then just get back on the road and just keep driving, right? These are mostly when we're at the conventions, when we're in the town. Other than that, when they're driving, that number doesn't really come into this number right here. But for the sake of the matter, we'll go ahead and just factor it in. But $400 is a pretty reasonable number to feed all the troops and get everybody ready to go. For the day of the con and the Saturday of the con, I like to treat my people to the really good day, a really good Saturday, because I want you guys to know that I want all my employees to know that, you know, I really do appreciate all the hard work that they put into it as well. Cost of dog and babysitter. So we do have 2 dogs and we have 2 daughters. The values, of course, for you guys, for other vendors out there who are doing convention, the value really depends on your local connections. We are very humble for our babysitter. Really awesome lady. Blunchy knows her, grew up with her, and really awesome lady. $30 a day. She takes very good care of our daughter, our smallest daughter. The oldest daughter is still in school, so she goes to school and hangs out with the grandma and everything. And we do take care of the grandma and grandpa as well, because again, we are very humble for them and very thankful for what they do for us. Dog sitter, wonderful lady. $50 a day is really cheap, especially for 2 dogs. We have 2 very big dogs. We have a German Shepherd, Zelda, and then we have Natty as well. Our dogs are huge, but they have they're very low maintenance. And if she does watch these videos, thank you, Allie, so much for your help and support. $50 a day is what we pay her as well. So on a con that we're gone for a week, 7 days, $350 just for the dog. And then what would that be for the pets, or pets for the babies? $30 a day at 7 days, $210. So you're talking like $500 something for the dog sitter and the babysitter as well combined. So that's, again, another value that a lot of people don't consider that we actually have to pay out of our pocket, is going to be these numbers right here, okay? But again, these numbers are really low comparatively. If I were to do like a boarding for the dogs, oh man, that would be easily $100 a dog, maybe $80 a dog, which is really high. So that number could be double, maybe triple of what it is right now. And the babysitter as well could be double, triple than what that number is. Quadruple sometimes for that number as well. So these are just numbers just to kind of go off of. $400 allocated for weekend. Just the weekend, not the whole week of us driving, just the weekend. So there you go. All right, guys, so now we're going to get into the non-permanent variables. These are numbers here. It's actually just one category, honestly, of carton maintenance. Basically, it's a category that we do every 6 months, or every, I think it's like 20,000 miles, every oil change maybe sometimes. Not this grand of a number, but we do. If the car is not running and working, unfortunately, we can't go to cons. So the car needs to be either 99% or 100%. And if it's not there, then we got a lot of work to do, okay? We paid about $1,000 this past August, and that was for the tire, that was for the engine to get serviced, and then various filters get changed out as well, liquids, things like that. Our lighter fluid, or our headlight fluid, had to be changed. So, got a good deal on that one too. That numbers, it's not permanent, but again, we do have to get it done. If it's not done, the car's not running, we can't go anywhere. So, better to be safe than sorry for the vehicle itself, because it's part of the life. It's part of the lifehood. If we don't have it, we're dead in the water, man. So this is the number again that's just completely different. It does come up every so often. We do oil changes almost every con, honestly, because we drive that many miles. So it's every 3,000 miles, especially with towing. Get your oil changed, guys. Trust me. If you do tow, get your oil changed. Don't wait for that 4,000, 5,000 mark, even though it tells you can. 3,000 miles, get it changed, because if you don't and you tow and you make that engine go like we do, you could be in a very bad time. Jumping over into wild variables, these are numbers that honestly we didn't, actually one of these was actually brand new that we never really thought of, but people can get sick. We could get sick a day before the con and have to go. It is not a fun time. So thankfully, we all got sick actually last week, and that brings us into the next section, which is the weather, okay? Hurricane Francine came through, unfortunately. I really hope everybody in Louisiana is safe. We had a show in Louisiana last week, Louisiana RetroCon. However, because of the hurricane, it canceled the show. What happened with that? Well, we lost a show. I estimated we were supposed to make about $5,000 that weekend. So we just lost $5,000 because of that weekend. I had to hustle to sell things online fast. So I hit various Facebook groups to sell some product. I gave really good deals on things too, because we had to make up that money very fast, because when you lose a con, it's not a good time. It is really not a good time. We found that out very bad. So two factors we honestly didn't really factor into it at all till recently, till the weather kind of hit hard and Hurricane Francine canceled our show. So, but we hope everyone's safe out there. Their show's coming back as well. They wanted to do it the same weekend. Actually, we're in Portland this weekend. They're doing it the same weekend in Louisiana. So if you are in the area, go check them out. They invited us back. However, we're going to be in Portland, and that show is already paid for, and both the shows technically already paid for. So, but if you know of any other wild variables that maybe we haven't considered at all, let us know in the comments as well. We're always welcome to hear them, because I need to know if I need to ever plan for anything drastic besides these two. Actually, one I did forget. I did forget it. A nest egg. Okay. As a vendor ourselves, we have a nest egg, and the nest egg, essentially what that means to us is it is our just in case. Again, we lost a convention. Thankfully, we had money in the nest egg to take out and pay bills, okay? When you lose a convention like we do, it can affect how bills are paid. And at the end of the day, the bills got to be paid. If there's no lights on in the house, if there's no food in the fridge, things have to be paid. Car payments got to be paid. Insurance, rent, electricity, water, all that stuff has to be paid. Internet as well. I mean, I can't function without the internet. I have to have it. It the lifeblood of our business as well. So the nest egg itself, I misspelled that, or not misspelled it, but I wrote it very poorly. One thing a lot of people don't understand is I do put money into the nest egg. I can't freaking write it. I do put money in the nest egg every time we do a convention. Now, this number, I will not tell you guys, or I don't pull it out of expenses technically. It is in there, but I just won't talk about it. It's just, whatever number I kind of want to put in. I could put in $100 from a convention, $200, $300, $400, $500, etc. From the convention, and put it back into the nest egg. And again, it's just in case. We always have to have a fail safe, just in case we get sick or the weather really cancels our shows. So the nest egg helps us out a lot. Just in case something ever goes bad, we have something to fall back on and be safe for a while. Because the chances of 2 shows getting canceled because of weather, pretty slim, but not gonna happen, right? So another number that I actually do have to factor in, but that number is different from show to show. It just depends on how much I feel like putting in into the nest egg itself. All right, now we talk about goals per show. Okay, these are numbers that we have to hit for a show to actually be worthy of us coming back again. I say worthy, that's probably the worst word I could have used. I meant to say like for a show to be worth it for us to come back to. the numbers are kind of dependent, of course. These numbers will only qualify for 2+ day cons. So if they're pretty big cons, or they're cons that, you know, we should have done well, that's what these numbers kind of come from. You guys as vendors or first-time vendors doing shows, maybe these numbers will not apply to you at all, versus our numbers. This is just numbers that to us would be worth it. Now, there was a factor I did not really showcase, and that is right now the economy is down. It is election year, unfortunately. I say unfortunately because right now, it's just like this right now. Our shows versus last year are very different than what they should have been, right? But these are the shows that we're going to show you. I'm going to show you 4 shows after this. As you can see, we have $15,000 after expenses. Is a really good con. That's a great con, in fact. It's a show we're definitely going to go back to. At most shows that we do, I do want to make sure that like we sell a certain amount of dollars based on the inventory that we do bring. Again, that's all dependent on how big the show is and what kind of economy that current state's in at the moment. Those are factors that honestly I have no way of counting other than going online and looking up current economical standards or values based in the different areas that we're in. But for example, let's say we take $5,000 or $50,000 worth of inventory taken. I want to sell roughly 20% of that number right there, which would equal $10,000 worth of inventory is what I want to sell. Then, of course, you take expenses into that and everything, but usually after expenses, I want to take about 20%, is what I meant to say. I want to take about 20% of our current value in inventory, and I want to be able to do that after expenses. So if we take $50,000 worth of inventory, I want to make after expenses about $10,000 for it to be a good con, as you can guys see there. Anything less than $5,000 is after expenses. It's a very big struggle. We might be back. Might have been a show that we just needed to fill in the spot because we try to do 2 shows a year, or 2 shows a month. I'm sorry. With $5,000 after expenses per show, it's one of those shows that we just kind of do just to make a little bit extra dollars. The way the shows work is show number 1, typically, and this is all dependent on the show. Show number 1, typically when we do a show number 1, it's to pay the bills. And then show number 2 is to pay the business, is to make the business cycle more money in so we can buy more inventory, so we can buy more games, and basically keep building up and up and up, right? Anything 2,000 under after expenses, never again. I'm sorry, I just can't do your show. It's just not worth it, especially if we're driving super far. If it's something local and we make $2,000 and it's like local, it's a struggle to us. We have shows that we do this for, or we had a show that we used to do this for, and make $2,000. Yes, it's only a 30-minute drive from the house, but at the same time, it's like, man, I could be spending time with my family. I could be spending time, with friends, hanging out, going to places, going shopping, playing video games at home. So, time is always the most expensive thing because you have to value your time as an individual, right? So that's another factor I didn't actually write down, but time is my ultimate factor. If it's not worth my time, I'm just not going to do it at all, unfortunately. Again, these are only 2-day cons. We've done 1-day cons and only make, $100, $200, but it's a 1-day con, so it's whatever. It's not a big deal. So yeah, these are the goals per show. Do you guys think these numbers are kind of unrealistic? Let us know in the comments. Okay, one other thing before we go into these real numbers, these real cons. 50% cost of goods sold, okay? That means that 50% of what our actual gross pay is, 50% of the gross pay does get cut in half because our expenses for the cost of the items, I usually pay about, on average, let's just say 50%. I pay higher on some things, and 50% is usually my minimum that I pay on games themselves. But I just want to have that number up there. That way you guys can know that we're just going to do a 50% straight. The number is a little bit different, just a little bit, but on average, that number is probably as close as we're going to get to the actual number it should be, okay? So, going to the real numbers, real cons. Now, we're going to start with probably the worst con, and I have a good spread of cons for you guys to see and kind of get ideas of and numbers that we're kind of looking at, okay? Nostalgia Con, the worst show we have done this year and any year that we've ever done video game conventions before, or any conventions in general, okay? These are all 2 to 3 day cons. I probably should note that. Nostalgia Con is was it a 3-day? Was it a 2-day? I think it was 2-day. Let me look that up. NostalgiaCon was a 3-day con. Yay! It was our worst convention we've ever done. Okay? NostalgiaCon. I don't know what happened. I don't know to tell you guys what happened. We have found San Antonio shows are not the shows to do. We just do not do good at any San Antonio shows, so we don't do anymore in San Antonio. Total expenses for that show, $3,600. Those tables were like $1,200 a piece or something like that. It was like extremely high. So a 20 by 10 table was $2,400 alone. All right. Gas and all that stuff factored in, the hotels that we kind of went over already. Everything came out to about $3,600. Okay. Our total sales is only $3,600.50, or $3,600.50. $3,650. That's what I'm trying to say. So our gross pay was $50. After 50% cost of goods, we only walked away with $25 for the business itself. Single-handedly, just a terrible, terrible con. We are never. Can I draw this right now? Hold on, let's see. Oh wait, that'll be like this. And then you do like. Is that a bone? I hope it's a bone. Yeah, never. No, not ever doing nostalgia coming in. Guys, we can't tell you how bad that show was. Just no attendance. It was just awful for us. Awful. And we were the only video game vendor, I believe. We were the one of... Maybe there was one other video game vendor. Yeah, there was. Tronics Fix is his name. He was there as well. I don't know how well he did. I've never asked. Because this is a show that I just... This is the first time I'm actually publicly announcing it. Worst show we've ever done. It was awful. I didn't have any intention of telling anybody about this show. I just wanted to just let it go and just move on. And I've already let it go and moved on. But NostalgiaCon, worst show we've ever done. Never doing it again. $25 net pay. It was just no. We left Sunday. Here's how bad it was. We were there Friday, Saturday, and they were open till 10 p.m. Saturday, which was insane to me. I was not staying there till 10 p.m. But the last day, Sunday, we left at like 1 p.m. We left at 1 p.m., packed the car up, got home at like 5 p.m. 5 or 6 p.m., something like that. So we got home early. Like the show was ending by the time we got home, and unloaded and just moved on with our lives. Just worst show ever. Had we stayed longer, do you think we would have made more? I don't think so. I don't think it was a good show at all. Let's go with a pretty recent convention that we did, Retro World Expo. Thank you so much, Chris and Lance, if you guys are watching. I appreciate it, and everyone, the whole team, everybody out there that helped us out that weekend. Total expenses, $5,500. You're gonna notice the expense on this one was probably the highest. That's because we did drive the farthest so far. 3,100 miles, I think is what it was. 3,200 miles, something like that. No, 20. I don't remember how many miles it was now. This was a brand new. I say brand new. This was now a 3-day convention as well. Again, we just do not like 3 days. We're going to get into that after this, or after all this section. 3-day show, Retro World Expo, Hartford, Connecticut. Drove the farthest. It was the farthest we've ever been. It was 28 hours, I think is what it was, drive, or 30. No, it's 28 hours drive, yeah. Tennessee, you have a long state. You don't realize how long Tennessee is till you drive that entire length from Memphis to Nashville and all the way out. Very large state, but... that being that as it may, total sales $11,000, $66. Total expenses $5,500. Estimate. Those are pretty close. The numbers I'm doing are really close. There's like some pennies in there, of course, but I just rounded everything. Gross pay of $5,566. So our net pay after the cost of goods 50% is $2,783. Is all we made. Actually, the numbers after expenses, I don't want to point this out. Numbers after expenses is always going to be the gross pay, not the net pay. The net pay I don't care about. I do as a business, I do. Net pay just tells me how much we've made profit, because that's the actual profit number versus the non-profit number. But the numbers, or the pattern we did before that showcased our goals is always the gross pay, not the net pay. Net pay to me is just really good to see. That net pay probably won't ever happen unless we sell $30,000 worth of stuff after expenses, right? So again, our gross pay is always going to be the number we want to hit, the goal number that we want to hit. Net pay is just cost of goods after and what the business makes in profit afterwards, okay? Game On Expo, our best show this year alone. Great show. We loved it. The energy was super amazing, super fun. And as you guys see, we have $4,600 worth of expenses. That's actually pretty high comparatively. But gas prices out in Arizona were a lot higher. I think it was like $4.50. I think a gallon's what it was. So gas prices were a lot higher out there, going out that way too. Wonderful show, but there is a small factor as based by the star. Here we go. Total sales, $26,600 is what we did. Total sales. So gross pay was $22,000. So we exceeded that number that we wanted to hit for goals, right? Net pay afterwards, $11,000. Great numbers. Those are really, really solid numbers. Here's the issue. Not so much an issue. This was income tax season. Income tax was coming around. This was in March. So income tax season was in full effect. So everybody had extra income just to kind of spend about, buying video games and everything. I think we sold our Earthbound here. We sold Earthbound to one of our buddies now that we now know out there. And then we sold what was it? It was Aero Fighters to Fire and Ice Games as well. So shout out to Fire and Ice Games. Thank you guys so much for the purchase. I don't forget sales. I don't forget most sales. I forget some sales. I'm not gonna lie to you guys. I'm human. Leave me alone. Game On Expo, great show, great numbers that we hit. But again, income tax season, that number is kind of a wild card. Reality of it is, these numbers you see here are kind of the reality of what most of the numbers you should see are. Most of the time, though, pretty higher, much higher, should be much higher. Again, there's the the factor that we just don't have any control whatsoever of, is the economy is just down right now. Nobody has extra spending money to kind of throw about like that. People got to, you got to buy electricity, you got to buy diapers, you got to buy food, you got to spend money on rent, and like things are expensive. So we fully understand it. We're human too. We spend the exact same amount as most individuals do anyways. So just putting those numbers out there as well. Next, we move on to Southeast Game Exchange, a show that we were told was huge. We were told was going to be big. Both these shows, actually, we were both on recommendations of. Both shows we were told are going to be amazing shows. Again, guys, the economy's down. It was just a rough time all around. Why I say that is, total sales was $9,200. We actually had a bigger inventory here than we did here. Our inventory was much grander here, numbers-wise, versus the Game On Expo. Our inventory numbers here were very low comparatively to Southeast Game Exchange and Retro World Expo, for that matter. So again, equal in should equal out, right? But in this factor, it never did. So we only cleared, after total expenses, $4,200 after gas and mileage and all that stuff. Keep in mind, too, I want to point out, these Siege was actually a 2-day show. Yay, 2-day shows. Game On Expo was a 2-day show. Yay, 2-day show. Less time for hotels, because that's why the expenses were a little bit cheaper on these ones. Love 2-day shows. It's so simple. You don't have to stay so long. Once it's done, you just leave. Done. Gross pay was $5,000 after the expenses on that total sales, and leaving us net pay afterwards, cost of goods sold, was $2,500. So gross pay, it barely hit that mark. We barely hit that number that we needed to even kind of consider it. We will be back next year. We just know that the factor that really affects us most right now is the economy is just rough right now. Most people are actually trading us games. Most of the games that we actually are getting, which I do not factor into the numbers, are trades. We do get trades in as well, as you guys have probably seen from other videos that we do on the channel as well. The trades I don't factor into gross pays at all. I don't factor that number in whatsoever. If they give me cash on top, that the cash goes into the number. Trades do not. Trades are just trades, and that's that. It's kind of impossible to well, not impossible. The number would be really odd if I tried to do that, because then it's like, okay, well, I took in an $80 game now, but I took it in at like, $60, so that's $20 extra to the gross pay or something. The number just doesn't look right at all, or it's just it's a different number that I have to factor in. So these are all the cons that we see here. We have the real numbers, real cons. It's the reality of it is, no, we're not thousandaires. No, we're not millionaires. We're nowhere near being any of those numbers at all. And, I'm not hurt by it. I'm very appreciative of the community coming out and supporting us for what you guys do. You guys are our lifeblood. If it wasn't for you guys, we wouldn't be where we are today. All right. Now, this next section is all going to be opinionated, okay? I want to let that be known right here, right now, because a lot of this stuff, unfortunately, maybe I'm just not educated on. These are just our own opinions on why we think 3-day events are just not the way to go. In certain situations, of course. There's certain situations where it can be possible, certain situations where we don't really believe it should be possible. If you have friends that run cons, send them this information. You know, have them film or give me information that I don't have regarding this. Maybe there's something I'm not seeing here that just doesn't make sense to me, right? Then I can be better educated and understand, you know, this is why we have 3-day cons, why we have 2-day cons, okay? So, higher booth costs. We went from last year at Classic Games Fest, I believe it was like, let's just say $600, I think is what it was, for a 20 by 10 booth. So 600 twice would have been, $1,200. We went up to $1,400 for a 20 by 10 this year because it was a 3-day event this time, right? The booth cost went up, therefore our expenses had to go up. However, the problem was equal in did not equal out, all right? We'll get into that in here in a second. Higher hotel fees. Of course, we're staying there one extra day or maybe a couple more days, so we have to spend more on a hotel, which eats into our expenses as well. Adds another day, another $60, $70, $80, $90, however much we're spending on a hotel. Adds another day there. Longer time away, usually the setups are on Thursdays. So if setups are on Thursdays, we're usually gone. We leave on a Tuesday or a Wednesday. So we're gone for an additional day again from our families. So unfortunately, that's a personal thing, really is. Maybe it doesn't affect you as much as a vendor, or maybe it doesn't affect you so much as a person. But longer time away from our families. So that affects us personally. So I put it on the list. The overall attendance doesn't increase. All right, so let me show you something that I think isn't necessarily 100% legit, but this is how it plays out in my brain, okay? If growth is 10% a year, which it's not always, but let's just assume it's 10% a year consistently, then no matter what, the year following, your attendance percentage doesn't change, right? So, example, let's say for the year 2022, these are just random numbers, we had 8,000 people come to a show, right? 2-day show. 2023, we had a 2-day show as well, 8,800, okay? 10% consistently. 2024, let's say we went to a 3-day show, but we only had 9,600. Well, then your 10% still carries over, and the number doesn't change at all. So in my opinion, there's no need to be a 3-day if your attendance is still going to be 10% bigger. Of course, again, there's things I may not know, all right? 3 days makes sense if the total attendance is grand. And I put 20,000 just to put a number on the table or on the board. But the thing is, that number needs to be grand. I'm talking shoulder to shoulder, like give the people more time to shop around without having to be shoulder to shoulder, bumping into people, hurting people, and things like that. Safety is always the key thing. Insurance is the key thing as well with people that run shows. If you run shows, you know what I'm talking about. But it makes sense if you have a grand scale of people. If you have a big venue, Classic Games Fest is another one I'm going to use as an example this time around. The attendance last year was a little over 10,000, I believe. This year, I think it was a little over 12,000, I think is what it was. Or did I even get the information for that yet? Maybe I didn't get the information, I'm just assuming. But it was a 3-day show this year. Last year was a 2-day show. What happened was basically the pros of the 3-day is what happened. You spread the attendance out, which allows more interaction from person to person, okay? Our table wasn't super crowded, but there were slow moments because people were just spread out so far and so thin. Because again, it was a 3-day show, so people had time to come around and shop around, right? Not us, because we were already there as vendors, so we had to spend an extra day on hotel, right? Less theft. This is something I didn't really consider at the time of a 3-day show, but it makes more sense because people are so spread out now and not so much crowding a table at one time. The chances of theft are lower because you're able to watch your stuff a little bit better instead of being pulled away by 20 different people at one time. So the less theft, in my opinion, is better for a 3-day show. That's great, awesome. Theft just sucks because you lose money. No matter what, if somebody steals a game, you lost that dollar amount money, right? Now, a big con in our opinion, and this part, I'm not gonna lie to you guys, there's no way around it. It makes it seem bad. more impulse buyers with the bigger crowd. What I mean by that is when you have 5 people around the same table and they're looking at the same games, they want to buy. They want to pick up and go. They want to grab this game because they're scared that everybody else is going to grab this game, buy it, and go. Again, I know it sounds bad. I'm going to admit it sounds bad, but that's a fast sale. It's those people that come in, they know what they want, they grab it, they go. Done. I'm not saying I don't want interaction. I'm just saying the impulse buyers just buy more. They spend faster. They spend more money at tables as well. We've noticed that at 2-day shows that have large crowds. Again, Classic Games Fest last year, huge crowds at tables. Huge. We were bombarded on 2 days. Both days we were bombarded, and it was crazy busy. But I personally, I will tell you this right now. I love the adrenaline. I love the rush. The rush is what I live for because we were go. It was from time they opened and VIP came in, it was go mode. We hit the gas and we didn't let up till 6 p.m., 5 p.m. Whenever we got out that night, it was just gas the whole time. And we really enjoy that because the day just goes by so fast and so quick, and we love that. Also, I will say with a 3-day, I am able to record a little bit more than I would be if I was on a 2-day, if it was that crowded. But at the same time, I'm going to take my time to record anyways, no matter what. So I'm going to slow down a sale like that. Plus, it would be a lot more, I guess, entertaining for y'all, I would think, if we had crowds more often. Because then you guys could really see and enjoy, like, just a sale. And I'm talking, like, not cuts, like, no cuts at all. Just sale. And then the floors would look bigger. They would look more packed. And, you know, you would see like, oh wow, this is a con that looks really, really good. So that's why we, as 3 days, we're not huge fans. We like the 2-day events more. All right, so why am I telling you guys all this? All right, the information that I want to give you guys as newer vendors or as people that are trying to become vendors like we are, try to do what we do, just understand there are numbers out there that I just want you guys to be prepared for, right? There's numbers out there I don't think a lot of people have kind of prepared for, and these numbers hopefully help you guys out. There is one more thing I wanted to do as well. Don't make fun of me. I probably will be made fun of, and that's okay, because the last thing I want to do is honestly the best thing of them all, and the best part about what we do, and even though these numbers don't seem as cool, the best thing is you guys. Thank you guys, the community out there, everyone that's ever supported us and everyone that still supports us to this day. Shout out to Nolfo, Nico, Hippo. Oh man, there's so many of you guys to name, and I'm so thankful for all you guys, for everything that you guys have done for us. You know, I started this business 3 years ago, and I had no idea I was ever going to get this far where we are today, because I just had no idea. You know, we started at a convention, a 10x10 convention with some just really run-of-the-mill stuff at a con called Retro Expo in Plano, Texas. We started there 3 years ago. And honestly, like, the support that you guys brought to us means so much to us. You guys have no idea how much you guys have impacted our lives. You know, this collection room would not be as filled if it wasn't for you guys. The amount of smiles I've made for people, you know, bringing you guys nostalgia. You know, I've told everyone, I don't sell video games, I sell nostalgia to you guys, and I stand by that. I really do. I stand by that. You know, with everything that you guys have done for me, it means a lot, because, you know, not being supported and no one believing in your dreams and what you want to do in life is something that I think a lot of people just kind of take for granted. A lot of people don't understand, you know, that really affects you here and here, right? You want to be supported in life. You want to be, you know, you want to be given praise for what you've done. You know, I'm very proud of us for where we've been. I know plenty of you guys out there have, you know, told us to open up stores and to continue on doing what we're doing. You know, you guys appreciate us for the community. But I think one thing that us as vendors take for granted is you guys. You know, all you guys watching us on our channel, the videos we put out, the messages that we send to everybody. Without you guys, you know, I wouldn't be anywhere where I am today. You know, to my girls, I really appreciate my daughters for everything that they've done for us. Though one is only almost 3 years old, you know, she can't really tell me that she supports me, but deep down, I know that she's very, very proud of where we are today. You know, we have a roof over our heads. We have food in the fridge, and you know, full bellies. So everyone's happy. To Blunchy, you know, thank you so much for everything that you do as well. You are our #1 supporter, and I'm pretty sure if you could wear a cheerleader outfit and cheer us on, you absolutely would at conventions, because you are the #1 supporter, and I want to give you everything because you are everything. To the many people out there who continue to support us, again, thank you guys for everything that you guys do. I want you guys to know that I appreciate all you guys, even though numbers may not seem good at sometimes. Maybe I'm having an off day. Maybe I'm having a bad day. I like to know that I gave you guys a reason to smile by bringing you guys nostalgia back to y'all's lives. A game that you grew up with, a game that on a rainy day you may have been bullied by somebody and got home, played a game, and it relieved you of all your stress. And I want you guys to know that you guys are everything to us. So thank you from the bottom of my heart. Thank you so much.